It's 11:30 in Pittsburgh. In the next half hour, we have a warning for parents of school-aged children. We have an auctioneer who has stopped by. He's going to tell us how to buy, how to bid, and how to find bargains. And our friends from Buell Planetarium are here to discuss the 82 factor. This and more coming up on Good Day Pittsburgh.
Good morning and welcome to Good Day Pittsburgh with Eleanor Schano White and Tom Peterson with news.
Good morning, everyone. It's Tuesday, August 21st. Tom Peterson picked a bad week for vacation. So far, he hasn't had even this much sunshine. Andrea Wood's sitting in for him, and she's ready right now with the mid-morning news update. Good morning, Andrea.
Good morning, Eleanor, and good morning, everyone. The Cyril Wecht controversy continues to make headlines this morning. Yesterday, County Controller Jack Lynch subpoenaed private bank records from Wecht in an effort to learn if any money paid to the coroner for outside work ended up in Wecht's private account and not the county treasury. Records were also subpoenaed from past county coroners to determine how they may have handled the so-called professional education fund. Wecht claims he's done nothing wrong, but Lynch, a lame duck, contends taxpayers have been ripped off to the tune of thousands of dollars. Reportedly, those records are on their way this morning to the county controller's office. Washington County Police are reportedly holding one suspect for questioning this morning in connection with Friday's double murder. That murder claimed the life of Canonsburg dry cleaner store owner Carl Luisi and his 15-year-old summer employee Tina Spaglia. The suspect was picked up yesterday in West Virginia. Authorities speculate the murders followed the robbery of the dry cleaners in Canonsburg. Former Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback Joe Gilliam is in stable condition today in a Baltimore hospital. Gilliam is recovering from an attack by 4 men who dragged him from his car yesterday and beat him repeatedly over the head. A doctor at the University of Maryland's shock trauma unit says Gilliam, who now plays for the semi-pro Baltimore Eagles, should be back on the playing field within 2 weeks. Police arrested a 19-year-old man early today and are searching for 3 others. Timothy Matthews has been charged with assault with intent to murder, possession of heroin, and possession of marijuana. Former United Mine Workers President Tony Boyle will not be getting a new trial. A Delaware County judge yesterday denied a new trial for Boyle, saying he could see no merit in Boyle's appeal. The judge set September 20th as the date for sentencing of Boyle. The 77-year-old Boyle was convicted twice for the December 1969 murders of union rival Jock Yablonsky, his wife, and his daughter. Meantime, the current United Mine Workers president, Arnold Miller, says he does not want this year's union convention to turn out like the tumultuous one of 1976. And Miller says he'll throw any troublemakers out onto the street at the union's Denver meeting later this year. Flooding damaged an estimated 150 homes and several businesses in Weirton, West Virginia late last night, forcing the evacuation of more than 300 people. No injuries were reported. West Virginia Governor Jay Rockefeller had to activate the state's new emergency operations center in the state capitol early today, hours before it was to have been formally dedicated. Senator Alan Cranston says he's not supporting President Carter for the Democratic presidential nomination. The California Democrat attacked Carter's record on Hispanic American issues and said the president cannot control even his own administration. Cranston, the Senate Majority Whip, says he will not campaign for Carter, and he doesn't want Carter to campaign for him. Rock star Rod Stewart is a father this morning. His wife, Alana, gave birth to a 6-pound, 13-ounce girl late last night in Los Angeles. The baby is yet to be named. The couple was married April 6th. And in sports, the Pittsburgh Pirates scored a run in the 8th inning early today to beat the San Francisco Giants 6-5 in a game that was delayed by rain for almost 4 hours. Pinch runner Alberto Lois scored the winning run from third base on a passed ball by Mike Sadek with 2 out. The game was delayed in the 6th inning, 3 hours and 42 minutes by rain. Our Buccos continue to be red hot. They'll meet the Giants again tonight. That's the mid-morning edition of News and Sports. Now back to Eleanor.
Thanks, Andrea. There are thousands of youngsters here in western Pennsylvania who may not be allowed to enter kindergarten or first grade this fall because they haven't been inoculated against common childhood diseases. All of this is the result of a state law that has been in effect since 1974 but is being enforced this year for the first time. Eleanor Strife from the Allegheny County Health Department is with us, along with Dennis Dickson. Eleanor, the state is dead serious. They are not going to allow these kids to get into school unless they have proof that they have been immunized, right?
That is right. They must have 3 DPT, 3 polio, measles, and a rubella shot in order to get into school this fall.
What made the state finally clamp down after all of these years?
Well, in 1974, a law was passed by the legislature stating that children must have immunizations prior to entering school. However, up until this year, they have given them a 90-day grace period in which to get the immunizations. When the Justice Department looked at the way they were enforcing the law, they said this was not right. The law says they must have them before they enter school, so that there will no longer be a grace period. They must have them before entering school. That 90 days was pretty hard to keep track of for the school personnel anyhow, because they had to keep seeing if the children who did not have immunizations were immunized, and then try to get them out of school if they were not immunized in the 90-day period.
Dennis, when were parents first notified that this law would be enforced this fall?
Well, we've attempted to keep them informed via the media and through our educational programs on a regularly scheduled basis. As far as the new aspects of the law, as soon as we became aware of them back in June and July, we began to promote the fact that there was no longer a 90-day grace period in which to have the child immunized.
What if the child has had the immunization shots, but there is no documentation? What do you do?
There generally is documentation. It's a matter of the parent going back to the source of the immunizations. Whether, if it was at the health department, certainly documentation is available.
What would you do? Just call the Allegheny County Health Department and ask for the records department?
You could call the Allegheny County Health Department, and we have a number 578-8060. Anybody who has any of these problems could call us, and we would deal with each one individually.
But you do keep all of those records?
We keep records of all our clinics, yes.
Let's run down again, Dennis, the necessary shots before a child will be allowed to enter school.
As far as the minimal school entry requirements are concerned, the child needs to have a minimum of 3 DPT, that's diphtheria, pertussis, and tetanus, all given in one vaccine, a minimum of 3 polio, oral polio vaccine, 1 measles, and 1 rubella. Those are minimal requirements. However, they are something a little bit less than what the Allegheny County Health Department recommends that a child of school entry ought to have. We believe that the child by school entry should have had as many as 5 DPT and 4 polio for additional protection, to ensure protection.
Eleanor, this is now the 21st of August. In some school districts, classes begin next week. Let us assume for the moment that a youngster has not had any of these shots. What should a parent do right now?
A parent should bring them into the health department or take them to their physician immediately and get started on the immunizations, because it takes a minimum of 2 months in order to get all these into a child.
So then, excuse me for interrupting, but then that means that there could conceivably be some youngsters out there who cannot enter school for the next 2 months.
Conceivably there could be. However, we feel this is a very small number, because most children, when they're infants, are taken to the doctor regularly, at least until their first birthday. This would probably then mean that they would have their initial series of 3 baby shots and 3 polio. They may not have their measles, mumps, and rubella shot, which is also 1 shot, or their boosters. They could get these at one time in the health department. We would give them all of them on one visit to the health department.
Do you have clinics set up throughout the area, or where would someone go?
Well, we do have clinics set up every month and every week. We have them at different sites. There's one tomorrow at the South Park Road, the South area, I think it's called YWCA, from 1 to 6. And there's one on Sunday in West Park near the Avery It's for the International Year of the Child, and we will have an immunization booth there from 2 to 5, and anybody can come there and get their shots before school entering next week. However, a lot of the county schools probably are opening first. Some of them are not opening till Labor Day, so they can come to one of our offices. Anybody can find out where the closest clinic to them is by calling the number I gave, which is 578-8060.
There's really no excuse for parents not having their child immunized because it is free, right?
That's right, it's free. There are a few children, however, whose parents have religious objections to immunization. They can be exempt from the law by having written notice that they are religious exemptions. There are a few children who are medical exemptions also, and they would have to get a note from their doctor stating that they have some problem that they cannot be immunized. But other than that, there really is no excuse other than the fact that people just have neglected to take them.
We have in recent years, because well, there were a couple of cases of polio in the eastern part of the state, but polio is almost a disease of the past. However, measles, you were telling me, Dennis, that a person will either, if they don't have the immunization, they will get measles, right?
As a general rule, sometime between birth and age 21, virtually everybody born in the United States will develop measles at some point, or will be protected by virtue of vaccine. Once an individual develops measles, that means that a child, for example, is going to be in bed for 10 days, disruptive to the educational process, and that's at a very minimum. There are complications that are associated with measles. It's capable, at the very worst, of causing death. Encephalitis, which is a type of brain fever, which may leave the child mentally impaired, and so on. So it's not a disease to be treated lightly. And for a vaccine that costs 85 cents and is available free, it's what's the expression? Pound-wise, penny-foolish, or vice versa.
There is no excuse, and the state now has taken a very strong position. Unless your child is immunized, the child cannot enter kindergarten or first grade this fall. So get in touch with the Allegheny County Health Department and make sure that your child has the necessary immunization, and do it as quickly as possible. Eleanor, Strife, Dennis, Dix, thank you so much. We'll be right back. The possibility of worldwide disaster caused by the convergence of planets in 1982 has become a popular topic of conversation. In fact, at Buell Planetarium, the current showing is entitled 82 Factor. And Bill Moser and Paul Oles are with us now to explain the theory behind this possibility of disaster. Bill?
Well, very simply, the idea behind the 82 factor and behind the whole concept of earthquakes in 1982 is based on a planetary alignment in 1982, and I think we had a slide about that was on just during the break a moment ago. All the planets will be not in a straight line, as a lot of people have been suggesting, but they'll be spread out over about 100 degrees of the sky, and we have a piece of artwork with that. This shows the solar system as a whole, and as the planets do line up like that, and also in another piece of artwork that's coming up, it causes changes in the activity on the sun. And this change in solar activity then leads to changes in air pressure, which supposedly is going to cause earth tremors. and very possibly the long-awaited San Andreas earthquake. This is the diagram of the planets as they'll be aligned in 82. As you can see, they're by no means in a straight line. They're spread out over about 100 degrees of the sky, and that's the time of the maximum alignment on, I believe it's March 10th.
When is the last time the planets were aligned in such position?
It was about 300 years ago.
What happened then?
As far as I know, not much.
Well then, what is the reason to believe that something is going to happen in 1982 when it did not happen 300 years ago when the planets were in exactly the same position?
Well, earthquake prediction is a very, very poorly understood science. It's something that scientists are slowly grasping for new ideas constantly, and this just happens to be one. Most scientists think the whole concept is rather far-fetched.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Paul?
I agree with what Bill said. I think the whole idea of the catastrophes occurring in 1982 represents a very small portion of the scientific community. Two people, really, out of the entire community gave rise to this whole idea. One is a NASA scientist, the other the editor of a scientific journal. Gribben and Plageman wrote a book, and it was titled The Jupiter Effect. And they hypothesized all these catastrophes occurring at the time of this alignment in 1982, but most of the scientific community, a majority, after reading the book and really looking at the documentation and seeing the basis, took strong exception, and I agree with them. I think the book is not really soundly researched.
So you say there's no danger?
Well, I'm not saying there isn't any danger. I just say we just don't understand planetary physics to the point where we can make those kind of predictions. Mm-hmm. There may well be earthquakes in 1982, you know, but I don't feel that there's any reason for expecting an increase. I don't think at this time there's any reason for drawing any kind of correlation between increases in earthquakes and the alignment of the planets. There may be earthquakes in 1982, but you can't correlate the two of them.
The two scientists that you refer to must have had great press agents to have been able to create this much talk about the 82 factor.
Well, I think...
what are we seeing right now, by the way?
This is a photograph of the sun, our day star, the nearest star to the Earth, a giant ball of burning gases. And that black spot that you can see in the middle of the sun is a sunspot. And we happen to be right now in a time when there are quite a few sunspots on the sun. In fact, late this year, we're expected to reach a maximum number of sunspots.
What does this mean?
Well, nothing really that significant in the sense that this occurs every 11 years. This is a periodic thing. The sun gets quiet and then gets very stormy and gets quiet. And this has been going on as long as solar observations have been made. But they bring all Gribben and Plageman tie this into the catastrophe hypothesis. Now this is something, it looks very complicated, I think, when you look at it the first time. But this is California, and we hear so much about San Francisco and Los Angeles and them being in a very earthquake-prone area, and they are. And apart from the Jupiter effect and the 82 factor, most geologists do say that Southern California is due for a major earthquake, in fact overdue. And the reason for that is shown in the diagram, the fact that there are two opposing forces meeting in California in a sense, and that the stress is built up in Southern California, both in the San Francisco and Los Angeles area, to the point that, well, was evidenced a few weeks ago. There was a major quake in
Do you believe that that whole area could literally just fall into the sea?
Well, I don't know whether I'd carry it to the point of literally falling into the sea, but I think that there could very well be, in fact probably will be, a major quake in the sense of 8 perhaps on the Richter scale, which is significant in either.
What was the big earthquake at the turn of the century?
That was slightly over 8. Actually, I think the highest earthquake ever recorded has been 8.6. So anything over 8 is a catastrophic earthquake, is a disastrous earthquake. And I think the thing that it's really an unpleasant thing to think about is the sense that population density has increased so much since the turn of the century. So even an earthquake of 7 on the Richter scale would produce more damage.
So what you're saying is that California is a nice place to visit. You wouldn't want to live there. The 82 factor, the show will continue through the 28th of September, is that correct? the 18th of September, and they're going to tell both sides of the story, let you draw your own conclusions. So go to the planetarium, and we'll be right back to tell you how you can find a bargain. Everybody loves a bargain, especially in these days of inflation. For that reason, this book is probably going to become a bestseller. It's called All Meat and No Potatoes, written by Colonel Leo Jension. And Colonel Jension is our guest in the studio this morning. No, it's not about food. It's about auctions and about flea markets and garage sales. And Leo, you are a veteran auctioneer. Why do people go to flea markets, and why do they have garage sales, and why do they go to auctions?
Well, primarily they go to save money. Then it's an adventure. People are always looking for sleeper. You know, we all know what a sleeper is, an item that's sold real cheap. And
the idea of finding those, though, for the average person are slim, because there are too many people like yourself out there. You know exactly what it's all about, and you pick up all those good things first, right?
Oh, I want to know about that.
I want to use, we don't have a lot of time, and I want to use it to the best advantage. Tell us some of the things that people can look for when they go to an auction, and some of the risks they can avoid. Now, you should go prepared. You say you should take a tape measure, you should take a notebook, you should take a pencil. And how do you bid? I mean, I've heard of people who, you know, they want to scratch their head, and all of a sudden they bought a $300 chair that they didn't want. Now, does that really happen?
No, not really. This is a myth. I've never seen it happen yet. And we usually are very liberal that way. People are scratching their head. We'll kid around once in a while and accuse somebody of buying something, but this is never done, really.
Are auctions fixed? If you are not getting the price that you think an item deserves, do you fake it and make it appear that this person bought it, and you really take it in the back room and you bring it out again sometime later?
I don't know about anybody else, but we certainly don't do this. If we can't sell it, we don't sell it. Mm-hmm. We do this for the specific reason is then you would be stuck with the item. Now, we had a sale last night, for example. The man had to have $500 for the truck. If we couldn't have got it, we just wouldn't have sold it. Mm-hmm. We did get $600, though.
But then, is that a legitimate auction? Isn't an auction when an item goes to the highest bidder? He says, I have to have $500.
No, this is one item. Let's face it. Nobody puts everything on the block mm-hmm. and says that it'll go, regardless, because there are circumstances we can't control, like weather and stuff like this, especially in my case, having sales outside. But I would say we sell about 98% of our stuff without reserves.
Do we have laws in the state controlling auctions?
Yes, we do. There's the Pennsylvania state laws. But this is a big myth as far as getting back to your question there. You do not have to sell an item just because you put it up for sale.
If you have two legitimate bids, don't you then have to put that into sale?
No, this is a myth. This is a myth. A person can withdraw an item anytime they want. In fact, Park Benet and the big auctions, they tell you that they have reserves. Mm-hmm. They don't play any games. I'm not saying it's not done.
What about flea markets? Is that mostly junk?
Well, there's some good flea markets and there's some junky flea markets.
But then again, you know, one man's junk is another man's treasure,
right.
So who's to say that it's junk?
This is right. This is right.
What is the difference between old, just plain old, and an antique?
An authentic antique is actually from 1830. In 1930, the U.S. government passed a law that this is what everything would have to be 100 years old. But this is a myth. Today we're selling stuff 30, 40 years old, and we're advertising them as antiques. In fact, most of your antique sales, I would say most of them don't have an authentic antique.
Do you come out as an authentic auctioneer? If a group of my neighbors wanted to get all of our junk together and we wanted to have a giant block garage sale, could we contact you, and would you come out and handle it for us?
Sure, we could do this. Okay. I haven't done that yet, but we've had a couple people put stuff together. It can be done.
The idea of garage sales, flea markets, auctions, they are probably more appealing today than at any time in the past because the price of new merchandise is just out of sight. This book, you wrote it to do what?
To tell people how to save money and make money through auctions, flea markets, and garage sales.
It's a how-to book.
It's a how-to book, absolutely. And in fact, we end up our concluding chapter, we even tell a person how to get rich or how to make big money starting on a shoestring. This is a experiment we've worked.
I just wanted to check to see if I had a shoestring. That's the problem today. Most of us don't even have a shoestring. Well, I want to thank you very much, Leo Jension. The book is called All Meat and No Potatoes, and if you've ever thought about having a garage sale in your house, or if you want to go to a flea market or attend an auction, better read this first because there's an awful lot of valuable information, and Leo tells you how you really can find legitimate bargains. We'll be right back.
The weather forecast for Pittsburgh and vicinity, a flash flood watch through tonight. Mostly cloudy with showers through Wednesday. Our high today in the mid-70s, our low tonight near 55.
August 21st, Aries. Buy a small gift for someone today. Perhaps some perfume or cologne may be appreciated. Taurus. This is a good time to search for lost objects. Look where books are kept. Gemini. Pay a surprise visit to an elderly relative. Your time may be well spent. Cancer. Too much play and not enough work can put you behind schedule. Use common sense. Leo. Be wise enough to avoid a family argument over a small matter. Keep everyone calm. Virgo. Try to complete unfinished projects now. Clear the way to start something new. Libra. A newfound friend can bring additional interests into your life. Keep an open mind. Scorpio. Be aware that you could spend too much for something today. Compare prices first. Sagittarius. A well-educated person could be a source of valuable information. Listen to a different viewpoint. Capricorn. Look for unexpected good news concerning a past situation. Now you can forget about it. Aquarius. Expect an invitation to a social function from a family friend. Go and enjoy yourself. Pisces. Some extra work may need to be done today. Do it and don't complain.
By the way, if you can't find this book, All Meat and No Potatoes, in your bookstore, you can write to Leo Jension, Box 46, McKeesport, Pennsylvania, and he'll send the book out to you. Now, hope you'll join us tomorrow morning on Good Day Pittsburgh, 11:30 to 12, right here on TV 53. You have a very nice day, and try to keep dry. Bye now.
This has been Good Day Pittsburgh with Eleanor Schano White and Tom Peterson with news. Join us each weekday morning at 11:30 for a special blend of features and interviews on Good Day Pittsburgh.